Hey webheads, I've been playing Marvel Spider-Man almost non-stop since it released, and I'm happy to say that this is one of my favorite games released this year. There is so much the developers, Insomniac Games, does right, the most important of which is a sense of immersion you feel as you play the role of Spider-Man. The game drops you into the shoes of Peter, who has already had his superpowers for 8 years. He has to balance the responsibility of being Spider-Man, helping his Aunt May, who manages a homeless shelter for the residents of New York,
Sure? What a nice surprise.
Need some help?
and his work at a lab.
Ooh, you are in bad shape, little guy.
The game already expects you to know his backstory, and who doesn't at this point, and the collectibles scattered throughout the city reference many of the supervillains he has already taken down.
With this vial of the lizard's blood, I was able to mix up a cure and turn him back into Dr. Connors. Too bad it didn't last.
The best part of the game is definitely the way you're able to web-sling across the entire city. The seemingly mundane task of tracking down some pigeons ends up being one of my favorite side quests.
Pigeon alert! Don't fly away, please!
The game does have the option of fast traveling once you get to a certain point in the story, but I found myself actually wanting to get to the destination without it. This actually solves the problem some critics have about quick travel in general, and how it breaks a sense of immersion in a game if you're able to instantly get from point A to point B. As you web-sling to your next objective, you will come across side quests, encounters with criminals, challenges,
Are you okay,
and
man?
collectibles, and more that open up as you progress through the story. You can propel yourself over rooftops, maneuver between buildings, and almost swerve between cars. The city of New York is huge, and you'll be free to explore the entire map once you start. The game looks absolutely amazing during the day or night, and you'll find famous landmarks such as the Met Museum or Central Park, and of course many Marvel Easter eggs like Avenger Tower scattered across the entire city. If you have played or are familiar with Rocksteady's Batman games, you're bound to see a lot of similarities, from combat, stealth, and other mechanics. For example, Spider-Man has basically a detective mode that highlights important items by clicking in the right thumbstick.
Let's see if my mask lenses can pick up the conduits.
You can also take down enemies without being detected while perched above them or going close for a takedown.
Sleep it off.
They even have a similar way of alluding to more characters that do not directly appear in the game. I also felt a parallel between an encounter with Spider-Man's Scorpion and the Scarecrow from the Batman games. The combat makes it easy to target an enemy close by or a sniper from range. That's not an easy feat when a large number of enemies can be attacking you all at once. Using Spider-Man's SpiderSense, which appears around his head, like in the comics, you can avoid taking any damage if your timing is just right. Not saying that any of this is a negative aspect of the game, but it may not be as groundbreaking as those who have already been introduced to these mechanics before. By completing events in the game and helping the city, you will be awarded with tokens that can be used to unlock new costumes, skills, and upgrade gadgets. By the end of the game, you'll have a lot more skills, gadgets, and suit powers to utilize during a fight compared to when you started, making each side quest an extra worth doing. Nothing feels like filler or wasted time. You will always be rewarded with an upgrade or some extra content to wrap up the task. Even if you don't want to change the costume of Spider-Man because it changes his appearance during cutscenes, you will get access to new powers that you can use on your favorite suit. This is a great idea because I thought that some of the costumes were distracting but had a good power I wanted to equip. One of the main reasons I was hesitant to purchase the game at release, at full retail price, was because a headline I saw that said the game was on the shorter side at about 20 hours. However, this isn't counting in all the side quests, collectibles, challenges, and encounters that are optional. If you are taking your time, the game could easily take you 30 to 40 hours, which is a good amount of time. So, if you're looking for value, I would say that the full retail price is worth it if you're a fan of Spider-Man or Marvel. The game isn't perfect, and there are a couple things I could nitpick about. First is that the game is too easy, even on the most difficult setting. There are frequent auto-saving points between battles that don't require you to be too skilled in combat. The challenge comes during optional missions that have you take on the Taskmaster's challenges, but I wish the main game was a little more difficult.
Not gonna lie, feeling pretty good about myself right now.
There were a couple of times I would die expecting to restart the mission from the beginning, but actually restart a little ahead of where I died.
Greenhouse. There it is.
Another thing that I didn't enjoy about the game was when you take control of Mary Jane or Miles. As Spider-Man, you can choose to use stealth or direct combat in almost all the missions. However, during the game when you control one of these other two characters, you must be forced to do stealth missions. I found the stealth mechanics to be too lenient, with enemies taking unusually long times to discover you even if they were in your line of sight. The developers do try to mix it up by changing up the gameplay during these segments. For example, Miles can use his ability to hack certain things to distract guards, or have MJ use one of Spider-Man's devices to distract patrols. But again, because of the difficulties together with the auto-saving, I ended up rushing through these, not needing to plan out my route compared to other games like Metal Gear Solid. The only thing I was disappointed with the game was the E3 2018 trailer. For those that were anticipating the game, I'm sure many of you already saw it. This was one of the best segments of the game, and it was completely spoiled by the trailer. Usually trailers would be different or just a fraction of a larger part, but the game plays out pretty much exactly the same. This is why I try to avoid trailers for movies and games, because of these spoilers, but it's hard if you want to keep up on gaming news or are excited about a game such as this. Knowing that this was one of the best scenes leading up to the climax of the story, they could have saved it for players to experience on their own and kept it a surprise. I'm guessing it was more of a marketing strategy since they wanted to promote the game as much as possible, even at the detriment of the overall experience. Marvel's Spider-Man is an amazing game that sets up for a successful franchise, aside from the confirmed DLC already in the pipeline. If you have ever been a Marvel fan, or enjoy action-adventure games, you should play this game. If I were to give this game a rank, I would give it an A. The reason I wouldn't give it an S, or my perfect score, is because I don't feel it was an innovation. It borrows a lot from the Arkham Batman games, and while it does everything well, a majority of the game feels too familiar. Thanks again guys for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of the game. And I'll see you guys in the next video.